Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the Celtic Way YouTube channel. You join us about an hour or so after Celtic 3, Livingston 0. I know it was Livingston 0, Celtic 3, but we'll mention Celtic first. 3 points for 10-man Celtic at the Tony Macaroni. We've called it a triumph at the Tony Macaroni, and I'm delighted to be joined by another Tony and Tony Haggerty. Tony, how are you doing this afternoon?
Brilliant after that. Thought Celtic were clinical, excellent, really professional. And I predicted it right. I said 3-0, so nobody was cheering more loudly than me when Daizen Maeda bent that one into the top corner right at the end. But thought Celtic were excellent. Joe Hart's moment of madness apart. Terrific display today on a ground and a surface that they've had their problems with in the past. But everything we said before in the pre-match all came to fruition. Macaroni was excellent. Callum McGregor was excellent. And Daizen Maeda. What can you say about Daizen Maeda? The good, the bad, and the ugly today with his performance. But
I wrote that in instant analysis.
Wonderful broad, did you?
Yeah, Clint Eastwood's the good, the bad, and the ugly. That is Daizen Maeda in a sentence or in a movie title. No, he's a busy man, but we'll definitely go on to talk about that more. Just before we get started, I think we're both absolutely delighted with the result. You know, a difficult place to come to. 3 points down the road. Doesn't seem like there's any injuries either. Some really good cameo appearances from certain players too that came off the bench, I would say. But before we get on to that, if I could just direct everybody once again to the bottom of the screen. If you subscribe to the Celtic website, you'll be supporting top quality football journalism covering the club you love. Visit www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. If you're not already subscribed, please do subscribe to the YouTube channel. That means you'll get a notification as to when we go live with these sorts of videos, both the morning briefings, the pre-match, post-match, or any other sort of video, whether they're pre-recorded or live. So if you are interested, please press the subscribe button. It's really helping us. The growth we've had over the past month or two has been incredible. Want to keep it going. The only way we can do it is with your support. So if you are interested, please click that subscribe button and get involved and subscribe to the website. £4 for 4 months, top quality football journalism. Everything's Celtic minded, everything's Celtic orientated, written by Celtic fans for the Celtic fans. So if you are interested, please sign up. Yeah, Tony, just to go through the game. You know, I thought it was a really, really good start from Celtic. I think within the first 5-10 minutes what sort of game will transpire. I know that could have changed a bit with the red card and the sending off and all that, but the first 10-15 minutes, and Rio Hatate converted his penalty in the 14th minute. But before then, I don't know about you in the stadium, but I felt like a bit of an oomph in the team. The passing was there. They didn't let the plastic pitch get in their way or anything like that. They just stuck to their game. And right from the off, it didn't look as if Livingston could get near Celtic. You know, I think even with the man advantage, Celtic got better in the second half. But just going on that first 10 minutes, Celtic looked as if they were on form and they were ready. They were ready to put on a show with a largely home audience, you would say, a home crowd. It was like a home game away from home for Celtic, the amount of Celtic fans. But yeah, first 15 minutes, absolutely brilliant, totally dominated, and they got the goal that they deserved through the penalty spot.
That set the tempo, didn't it? The first 15. Joe Hart had one save to make, didn't he? He was called into action.
It's a good save.
Saved it very well, to be fair to him. I'll give him that. But I thought that was Livingston's one and only real threat in the match. I never felt at any time that Celtic were under any threat at all. And you rightfully said, the second half with 10 men, they seemed to find more space, didn't they? Which was testament to the way they played, the way they went about their business today. That's one of the most comfortable I've ever felt watching Celtic at the Tony Macaroni at Almond Vale, the Livingston's ground. Call it what you like. And I thought, as I said, they were just clinical today and really, really professional. And the quality of football that they produced on that surface was exceptional at times. And from the minute Hatate scored his penalty, only just, but he still went in, so can't take that away from him. There was only going to be one winner. Joe Hart made life a bit more difficult than it probably needed to be.
Yeah.
And but Scott Bain came in and he had one shaky moment, didn't he? When I think it was Nubley.
Passed it to Nubley.
Yeah. And but that apart, I was delighted today with Celtic because, you know, coming to Livingston, you thought that they would make it more difficult for you, and especially after a European match, and to play with 9 men in midweek and then 10 today. There's a lot of running about, but certain people stepped up to the plate again, and Matt O'Reilly just continues to bamboozle me in terms of how good he is. And what an important goal that was. Don't know what Daizen Maeda was doing.
I don't think he knows what he's doing at times, to be honest.
Trying to force that one home. It looked like a simple tap-in, and it was Harold Bratback-esque miss. That, it ended up behind him. But I tell you what, all good midfielders are running in, following up, and Matt O'Reilly stabs it home. The minute he stabs it home, you breathe more easily, because at 1-0 with 10, you're always thinking there's a chance. But the way Celtic were playing, 3 minutes after the break, it's game, set and match. And I think the players enjoyed that goal and that feeling of, right, we can breathe. We've got something to hold on to. Let's just zip it about. You texted me at one point and said, I'll take Greg Taylor. He's back. And there was no surprise. He was back to his best because he played like an inverted fullback today, didn't he?
Absolutely.
The penalty comes like from Greg Taylor's through pass. Yeah. So the penalty, the move that led to the penalty instant was Greg Taylor. That was a Greg Taylor pass from last season, wasn't it? Where he picked up the ball and threaded it through the eye of the needle, and Rio Hatate's committed the defender. So lots of pluses today, lots of things that you probably have to big up the manager for that, because that's the way he sent them out to play. And again, just when you think there's some negativity going to creep in, he comes up trumps again with a formation, a style, and a display that, they made that look pretty easy today, when it could have been a lot harder. They only blipped the 3 red cards in 2 games, but I think I put in the instant reaction piece that, gladly, none of them are for indiscipline issues. It's just been decision-making in every one of those red cards. Gustav Lagerbielke's arm out across the face, chest, call it what you like, penalty against Celtic, and the second yellow card equals a red off the park. Odin Thiago home, decision-making, running, studs up into a full-blooded challenge, and then Joe Hart coming out for a ball that probably wasn't entitled to get or was going to get, and coming out and catching the man high. So decision-making has cost Celtic those 3 red cards. It's not a lack of discipline or losing the plot or anything. So you can always improve in your decision-making, can't you? And I think that's the lesson that Brendan Rodgers will be saying to his players at this moment in time. Guys, you have to be 100% spot on when you're making those kind of decisions. You can iron that out. I'd be more concerned if it was for, indiscipline and, just losing it at certain moments in games. But they're not. These are just rash decisions that have been made by 3 players in the space of 2 matches, and it kind of magnifies it a bit. But that's nitpicking a negative. But there's plenty of positives for me today.
So many positives today.
So many. Yeah, even Kyogo not getting on the score sheet, but he's conjured up a cross for that second goal out wide. He's still taking part. Well, that kind of thing. McGregor today, excellent as well. Covered more ground when he went down to 10 men than anything, So it's hard to find a fault, Ryan, to be honest.
Yeah, any faults come from, individual errors, one being from Joe Hart, some other ones in the park. Daizen Maeda, he's going to give the ball away 6, 7, 8 times a game, but he can also do what he did in stoppage time, in the 95th minute of stoppage time, with an incredible goal. Sits the... I don't know what's the nicest way to put this, but he sits the defender down with a lovely heel chop, and then side foots it with finesse, and he near enough the top corner. Now, it was almost as if Brendan Rodgers and Ange Postecoglou had the same reaction when he scored that goal, the one against Hibs, and then that one against Livingston. It was almost like the bewilderment. How can a guy that sometimes doesn't look like he's ever touched a football before come out with absolute magic like that? But I think that's why Daizen Maeda's in a lot of Celtic fans' hearts already, because he's unpredictable. Every pass is a mystery or an adventure. You talk about that as well with some players. He is definitely one of them, but he's just capable of the absolutely extraordinary, both good and bad. I think he's already becoming a cult hero with the Celtic fans, and I think he'll have the he'll have the trophy hall at the end of his Celtic career to be called a bona fide hero, because his movement, his work rate, everything. That's always a given. You'll never see him slacking off in terms of his work rate. You know what he's going to give you every game. There's some things he won't give you every game in terms of finesse and that. Sometimes he will. You've seen that goal at the end, but totally unpredictable. But one thing that is definitely predictable is his work rate and his hard work off the ball and on the ball. He's pressing, his interceptions, his tackles. I mean, how many times does he give the ball away and then run and get the ball back? He wants that ball. I think he gets annoyed with himself, but he doesn't even have time to get annoyed with himself because he's already thinking about getting that ball back for Celtic. Yeah, I think he's a very unique player. It's very difficult to describe him. I had to rewrite half of my last point because I was talking about how bad his finishing was. Then he scores that sort of goal. He shuts me up. No problem with that, Daizen. Do that all season for all I care. But yeah, totally. The good, the bad, the ugly is definitely a good way to talk about him. But the good, the bad, the beautiful probably today after that finish at the end.
If there's such a player as, he's like a schizophrenic on the park, isn't he? See the goal that he scores, that's a goal that people say he's worth 25 million quid. And then see the 6-yard passes that he can't play, he's not worth 25 quid. You know what I mean? And you're just like, there are two sides to him on a football park. And you just think to yourself, well, what goes through your mind at times? And I think you're right. He gets annoyed with himself when he loses the ball. And every time he gets the ball, he's probably thinking to himself, don't lose it, don't lose it, don't lose it. And inevitably, because he does everything at 100 miles an hour, his passing goes astray.
Win it back. Pretty much.
Yeah. And then it's in his head, right, go and get it. And
he doesn't even celebrate goals. I think he's such an incredible person as well. He's such a character. He doesn't celebrate his goals. He just hugs his teammates and he wants to get on with it, even if it's like 95 minutes on the clock. The game, probably when it kicks off again, it'll be full time. But he just wants to keep on going. He wants the next passage of play. Truly an incredible work rate. Brendan Rodgers after the game says he's got an incredible mentality. That mentality to just constantly go on the ball. Even if nothing's coming off for him, he'll still keep on going and going and going. He said that it didn't feel as if there was 10 men on the park today because he had Daizen Maeda and he makes up for it. And with 2 men, that just doesn't, these sort of comments don't surprise me.
Yeah, that kind of split personality that he's got, that he does one thing and then he does another. And, and the thing is, see if he brought that guy that curled the one in at Easter Road into the top corner and he wanted curled in today every week, he wouldn't be here and he would be worth 25 million quid, right? But it's everything else that comes with him. But you can't fault him. Have you ever known a player to give the ball away as much as Daizen Maeda and not get one bit of abuse, doesn't get shirked? Because because I think he works in the Barcelona 7-second rule or 6-second rule. I'll get it back. Give me a second. You know what I mean? Sorry about that. I'll get it back. And inevitably, 9 times out of 10 he does. So how could you fall out with that? Maybe have you tearing your hair out and exasperate you a fair bit. But, when push comes to shove and he's asked to do a job, he does a job. And to produce that kind of performance today, I think Brendan Rodgers was delighted that he got his goal because his play probably merited that in the end. But I still, for the likes of me, ask, how did he miss that one right in front of goal when it was laid in a plate? How did the ball end up behind him? I'm just like, but fine, he atoned for it by, scoring in the last minute with a beautiful goal, beautifully executed goal, and also my prediction came true because I said 3-0, so I was clapping him to the rafters after that. And Daizen Maeda can do what he likes as long as he keeps, as you say, producing top drawer finishes.
Numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie.
It's all, there are guys that you send them out there you know what you're getting, but then again, you don't actually know what you're getting because he's the old, what is it they say, the riddle trapped inside an enigma wrapped in a mystery type thing, or
You know
whatever.
you're getting, you're going to get something with Daizen Maeda. You don't know exactly what you're going to get, but you know you'll get something of substance or of quality. 9 out of 10 times you might play it out the pitch, but then there's something
Yeah,
waiting, and it's worth
you'll
taking that risk. It's worth the risk.
you'll do something wonderful like moments later, So
The good thing is,
I,
he
I think
signed
you're
up
right.
on a
You
new
two.
deal as well. He
Yeah,
knows his worth. He knows his worth because he'll have got extended terms and in better terms in terms of his wages per week. So, not. I think he'll know that he's definitely valued in this side. He'll see it because he's in the team every week. I think some of that is down to injury. There would be maybe a wee bit more rotation if there was more players there. Maybe the likes of Liel Abada, Palmer's coming into it as well. But at the moment, you can't drop Daizen Maeda. He gives you so much on the defensive end and the attacking end. You could say that for two players, I would say. I think everybody puts in a good defensive shift. They all get stuck in when necessary, and it was that sort of game. There's plenty of plenty of yellow cards towards the end of the game. Maybe a couple that could have came earlier on in the game, I would suggest. But the cards did come, especially for Livingston in the second half. They were piling up quite high. Another player that puts solid effort in the midfield and in defence, but also up front as well because he scored today. I mean, I think we've talked about him every single morning briefing, every single pre-match, every single post-match. But I think he's been Celtic's outstanding player. Of course, we're talking about Matt O'Reilly. This guy's a Brendan Rodgers player. This guy is playing for Brendan Rodgers. He has went up a level or two or three. He's already surpassed his goal scoring record of last season. He's going to hit 10-15 if he stays fit.
You wouldn't have known that Celtic were playing on a plastic surface today. That man glided across that pitch with ease, took the ball and sprayed it around, and defended when he had to. And as I say, all good midfielders just following and everything. And I think it was a case of, this is what you do with the ball, Daizen, when it comes across like that. You stick it in the net. 48 minutes, the game was done. It's a goal that everybody breathes more easily after that, don't they? And from a player who just, as you say, and I said in instant reaction, he's going to flourish under Brendan Rodgers' tutelage. Enjoy him while you can, because this is a guy who will help him take his career to where he wants to go. But in the meantime, try and nail him down to a longer term deal if we can. But just a guy enjoying his football and enjoying life at the minute, and it shows. He's got 4 goals in 8 games, surpassed last season total already. And because you decided to, well, not decided, but because he's listening to a manager, and I always make the comparison that Brendan Rodgers turned James Maddison into a £40 million footballer. Now, I'm not going to say he's going to turn Matt O'Reilly into a £40 million footballer, but he'll turn Matthew O'Reilly into someone who Celtic will get the maximum amount of money from a club that courts his services in the near future, because he's just everything to Celtic at the minute, isn't he? He's a brilliant defender. He's charging forward. He's scoring goals. And as I say, he glided. He made a mockery of that surface today. He's just an elegant footballer, as I said in the pre-match briefing. And I think that in terms of case studies, I think we should all go back and just dig out the kind of highlights from every game at Celtic this season. And Matt O'Reilly just shines like a beacon. And, you cannot praise him highly enough. And he was a large reason why Celtic were in the box seat today and were in control from start to finish. And he's got that calmness, as you say, for a 22-year-old. And he can instill that calmness around others. McGregor was excellent today as well. And the amount of space they found with 10 men on the park was frightening against a Livingston team that you are normally in your face. And, you're lucky if you get a second touch, but they made it look very easy today, stroking it about and playing well. And I'm glad that for a while I thought John Beaton might be the star today, but I think the way Celtic played and controlled that game and controlled the tempo, they made sure that John Beaton wasn't going to be the star today. He let a couple of things go in terms of Livingston players early on and booked a couple of Celtic players, and you thought at that moment in time that the penalty and the Joe Hart incident were the only ones he was going to get right. But I think Celtic kind of just said, you know what, we'll take a grip of this contest and it doesn't matter what you do. So I was
Basically, the
happy
referee was
about
getting
that.
an upfront view of how good Celtic were in the second half, rather than
Yeah,
him potentially having
you
more of
didn't
a
need to be
say on
involved.
proceedings.
Yeah,
No, the
and
role of a referee is to officiate the game, not to be the main star, the main attraction. I'm not saying that. I don't want to get down into that conversation too much, because Celtic put in a good performance. It didn't matter about what the referee was doing, but I think it's probably the best time when Celtic have won 3-0 to maybe for Celtic to call out the refereeing that was happening, especially in the first half of the game. I mean, there
well,
was
there was
that
a
incident
spell.
where
Yeah,
the VAR, right? So there's a challenge. Is it on Matt O'Reilly, the challenge? So
yeah.
that gets checked by VAR. Now, the referee doesn't see this as a foul when it happens. Alistair Johnson then makes a tackle, which I don't think he touches him, to be honest. It's very, very minimal touch. He gets the booking because of the intent, or the speed in which he comes in for the foul. So he gets a yellow card. The referee, or the VAR, Stephen McLean in the VAR, checks the previous foul for a red card. This is the one that John Beaton hasn't seen anything in to merit a foul, never mind a red card. And in the end, nothing arises that, and it's only Alistair Johnson, who has a contentious yellow card at most, who gets punished. Whereas, there definitely was a foul there. The fact that they're checking it for VAR means it's a foul. I know that's the rules of the game and the rules of re-officiating games with VAR. It was a very annoying sort of flashpoint in the game, but it doesn't matter too much, because Celtic got the job done in the end.
I think it's the inconsistency there, Ryan. Ref the game, and you would have spotted that there was or you should have spotted there was a blatant foul on Matt O'Reilly, but then he didn't miss the alleged foul by Alistair Johnson. I've
2
said this
seconds
before.
later.
You don't want favours. You just want fairness applied across the board. So there was that 5 or 10 minutes where I think everybody thought, "Oh no, Beaton's going to be the star of the show," but to Celtic's credit, they never let that affect them. Alistair Johnson certainly didn't, and they steamrolled Livingston today. I think 3-0 was kind to them, because in the
It could
second
have
half,
been double that today if they had their shooting boots on. And we said that about Ange teams in the past. I always said, Postecoglou's teams are going to hit a team for 10. Once that never did happen, they got to 9 against Dundee United, but we always thought there could be a double figures win. I'm not going to say Celtic are the same under Brendan Rodgers, because I think they're a bit more, I don't know, defensively disciplined, I would say. They're more calm. It's not that same high octane football. It's more smart football when there's more individual play rather than the team just going all at it. You're seeing players like Matt O'Reilly really come to the fore, Kyogo, Maeda now as well. But it could have easily been 5 or 6 today if Celtic had their shooting boots on with 10 men on the park. Now we'll go on and talk about Joe Hart in a minute, but I think that's as good a 10-man performance as you're going to see from Celtic. I thought character building, it really was character building. That's been happening. It happened on Tuesday, even though they get beat 2-0, because they kept it at 2-0 despite only having 9 men on the pitch. That is an achievement in itself. To go 10 men against Livingston on a plastic ground, a plastic pitch, and to get 3 goals, no response from Livingston, 3 points, absolutely incredible. Character building's happening under Brendan Rodgers' side, and you can clearly see that.
They did. I think you mentioned a word there. Celtic were smart today. That team performance to me mirror imaged the manager. It was a mirror image of what the manager was preaching and telling them to do, and that's why I big up the manager in these situations, because it always comes up with a game plan and a style and a system to beat tricky opponents, or opponents that you think will give you a harder game or a sterner test. He did it at Ibrox, and he's done it again today. And that's 2 difficult away in fixtures that you've encountered, that you've come away with all 3 points. And I include Pittodrie in that as well. There's an Aberdeen team that had a go at you too, and you managed to fend them off. So That's 3 difficult away fixtures in the first how many games of the season?
6,
7.
is it 3 out
Yeah,
of
6
6?
games.
Yeah.
So 3 out of 6. So that's half the games, and you've went to Pittodrie, you've gone to Ibrox, and you've gone to the Tony Macaroni and got 9 out of 9. You can't ask for more than that, and the manager has to take a big part in this. Yeah, the players have risen to the occasion on all of those days, but it's the way they're set up. And I think today was, you say, that kind of character building, smart, intelligent, clever performance, which is now the players are a mirror image of the man who's setting them up, because he's smart, he's intelligent, he's clever, and he knows this football game. He knows a thing or six. He's got tremendous knowledge, and even I think even the fact that Celtic were reduced to 10 men, they would have had a game plan for that. They would have had something in their locker to say, right, this is what we do. Poor James Forrest, he's come back here and whipped off after less than half an hour because of Joe Hart.
And I thought he started the game quite well too, as well, which was unfortunate. A couple of nice wee touches.
Yeah, James Forrest does that kind of wonderful thing, doesn't he? That we street football as a kid, you got the ball, and because you were quicker than the guy marking you, you knocked it about 3 or 4 yards in front and then ran onto it because it took you past him. James Forrest still does that and gets away with it. That's what I love about James Forrest. It's a throwback to playing football at primary or secondary, and you just you get the ball out wide, knock it like 3 or 4 yards ahead, and then run and catch it, and you leave the man.
The wee game of Kirby.
Yeah, you leave the man, your opponent and your marker in your slipstream, So, and that I was enjoying seeing him. He looked as if he was in the mood. But Joe Hart, again, decision making, Ryan. You can't legislate. Your goalkeeper came out a couple of times prior to that, and he was safe with that. But every time he ventures out his box, your heart is in your mouth, pun intended. And he came flying out there, and you just knew the minute he went down and stayed down. I mean, John Beaton had the red card in his hand immediately.
No wonder. You make it easy for him to make that decision with that.
I turned to the person beside me and said, he's off, because I saw the red card. And he lay there in the hope that it might take the sting out of the situation. And then he took an eternity to go off the park because he was hoping VAR would bail him out.
It was an offside. It was an offside we were looking at for that.
It was high and reckless. And I mean, what can you say? And that's from the most experienced man on the park. It's probably him that was lecturing Odin Thiago home about forgetting things and forgetting all about it, move forward and all that. Take it from me, I've got experience. These things happen, and but I'm sure he would have apologised to his teammates in the dressing room. But prior to that, he had a cracking save. But it's just not been a great week if you're Joe Hart. Let's be honest. Culpable for the first goal in Rotterdam and then sent off against Livingston. So one of those, you consign it to the dustbin, don't you? And just move on, and you'll take I think it's 3 games out, because that come under violent conduct, which if it does, it's 3
games. It'll just be the one. I think it'll just be the one. I'm not. At this point in time, I would be guessing, but I don't think it was violent conduct. It was just a collision between the two. It was outside the box. As a goalkeeper, I think if you're an outfield player and you make that challenge, it's a yellow. With goalkeepers, it seems if you take someone out like that when you're outside your box as a goalkeeper, you're gonna get the red card. It's just the optics of it. When it happened, I was like, it was as if he was channeling his inner Craig Gordon with that. Remember, Craig Gordon did that a couple of times and got away with it a couple of times as well. But you do that, you're on the risk.
I remember he did it against Alloa in a League Cup tie at Celtic Park. Remember he took the boy down, and Celtic won with 2 late goals against, I think Jack Ross was the manager of Alloa at the time. And I remember that one, and that was he was saying people were labelling him a Hong Kong Fooey, weren't they? He came out and just was nowhere near it and took the boy out waist high. So yeah, it's always, again, I go back to decision making. When you come out like that and you don't take the ball, you're walking. Doesn't matter what you can try and paint that up or dress it up. It's a red card offence. I hope it doesn't fall under violent conduct. I would like to think that
he'll be last man
banned for one game, a goal scoring opportunity possibly, But again, you're looking at it, and it was typical Livingston. It was an agricultural high ball forward, wasn't it?
It seems to be Celtic's Achilles heel at the moment. No,
in
that
behind
goal
and
against the goal
yeah,
against Aberdeen was the same. It was a big long ball. Carter
yeah,
Vickers, was half fit, so he didn't read the flight of it, and it goes past him. But it's a long ball. It's a very simple. You'd think if there's maybe a guy like Nawrowski at the back there, he deals with that better. I don't know. It's all, or Nat Phillips as well.
yeah,
He wasn't fancied today. I know he wasn't. I don't think he was quoted whatsoever. He wasn't even on. He wasn't even on the bench. So there was no point. He was never going to play on a plastic pitch. So if you're just coming back from injury, there's just no point in having
yeah,
a half fit player because the pitch will get the better of them. Just on Joe Hart, I don't want to go in on him too much. I did tweet about a couple of minutes after he did after the incident happened. I just see, and this is it might be too harsh, or it might be I don't know, but you're seeing these mistakes happen in domestic games now. You can sort of compensate for them for the higher pace in Europe. I get that with an older goalkeeper, but when older goalkeepers start to do this in the domestic game, it didn't cost Celtic on the day, but I think against a better opponent, say Hearts, Rangers, maybe Aberdeen if they were on form, they punish you today with 10
yeah,
men. Livingston were a perfect team to play against because they just sat back, even with 10 men.
yeah.
With 10 men, with Celtic had 10 men. I thought it was quite a baffling display from Livingston, if I'm being perfectly honest. I thought they would really go for it. I thought Celtic's backs would have been against the wall because I remember Ryan Christie get sent off at the Tony Macaroni quite a few years ago, and Celtic crumbled because of it.
Yeah.
With the 10 men, but just goes to show you when you've got an elite manager that knows how to work a system with 10 men. He's shown it at the highest level, or one of the highest levels at Ibrox when Edward scored that goal. You bring on a striker with 10 men. He's shown that even with that deficiency, you can still get a result if you use your tactics, and that's why Celtic were prompted to get Brendan Rodgers for games like that where something needs to happen, where a manager can come up trumps, and I think that was the difference today.
Yeah, I think, I bigged him up earlier, but I think Joe Hart, you can't take away what he's done for that dressing room. He's still an exceptional goalkeeper, even at his age, and he doesn't have, he doesn't have to go far to seek out critics, does he? So many people are kind of telling him much time he called it a day, and during the summer, Celtic supporters, if you canvassed them, would have said one of their priorities was to get another goalkeeper. But he's
Still
another
agree.
one, Brendan Rodgers. Yeah, of course, and that's fine. They're perfectly entitled to that opinion, and that's no problem with that. But I think he's another one that's listened to Brendan Rodgers and learned, and has become a better goalkeeper even in the short space of time that Brendan Rodgers has been there. The good display at Ibrox, and today's just one of them. With goalkeepers, they always run the risk when they come that far and they don't claim. So, is it becoming a serial habit with Joe Hart? I think with goalkeepers, their mistakes are magnified and highlighted, aren't they? Because it inevitably leads to goals, or it leads to what happened today.
It is literally the last line of defence. They are the last line. They are the difference between a goal and no goal.
So on Tuesday night, I think people were saying he gave the Stengs too much goal to aim at. Then he was slow getting across, and he got a hand to it. He should have got, and if he got a hand to it, he could have pushed it away. So everybody's going to pick faults in him, but I think today was just a poor decision by him. Prior to that, he had a wonderful save, kept the score at 0-0. So there was nothing to suggest that his game was going to come to an abrupt end, but it did. And maybe that's he'll miss at least one game. So just some thinking time for Joe Hart and come back better.
He came out the firing line as well, maybe.
Yeah, and I think he's an easy target at times. Because I think this season he's played some of his best football since he came in. The Ibrox game in particular for me was excellent. He had two cracking saves that kept Celtic 0-0 against St Johnstone. Could have been worse that day when Celtic didn't have their shooting boots on, and he saved twice late in the game to prevent Johnstone from winning at Celtic Park. So as quick as people are to dig him up when things go wrong, I think you have to weigh the positives and the negatives. And what Joe Hart has done already this season, up and balance that with that. Yeah, everybody was disappointed with the concession of the free kick on Tuesday night and coulda, woulda, shoulda got there. He didn't. It is what it is. He's been sent off this week. You know, you have bad days at the office, but you can also have bad weeks at the office, and I think it's just
certainly can
write it off. You know, take your time when you in the at least the one game ban that you're serving. Just recharge the batteries, and then hopefully come back in and just recapture that kind of St Johnstone Rangers for him, and everything will be fine again. But I nobody has to tell Joe Hart anything about goalkeeping. He's been there, seen it, and got the t-shirt. And there will be a lobby out there that will say, "Oh, it's time to hang up your gloves because these mistakes are becoming too frequent." And there'll still be a lobby like myself who say he's still got a lot to give to the club and he's still a goalkeeper worth his salt. So, that there's no right or wrong here. Joe Hart will hang up his gloves.
Game of opinions.
Joe Hart will hang up his gloves when he feels he needs to and he feels the time's right. I don't think he feels the time is right because I think he's still got a valid contribution to make to this Celtic team, and I think the manager believes that too. So I'll go with Brendan on that one till Brendan decides to, rest him permanently. I think Joe Hart will serve his ban, come back in, and revert to what he's used to.
Yeah, I'm going to talk a bit about particular Japanese players. It's been a day where I think there's been quite a few good Japanese performances. Kyogo didn't get his goal, but he had a couple of really important jobs to do. Not one of them being directing all the celebrations at full time. I know he got that cross into Maeda. Maeda scuffed the shot and Matt O'Reilly get the tap in for 2-0. But he was causing trouble up top. Hatate looks to be getting back to his sort of best form. I'm glad that Brendan Rodgers took him off with about half an hour to go, give him that 60 minutes and then bring him off. This is the perfect way to bed him back into the team. But the main reason I was mentioning Japan and Japanese players is I thought it was a really, really good cameo from Tomoki Iwata again when he's been given that opportunity to calm a game down. There's a couple of times in the game. Yes, he did give away the ball a couple of times. You're going to be that as a midfielder. Hardly any midfielder is going to have 100% passing accuracy. That's just that's just the field that they work in. Basically, they know that they're going to have to make those passes. But I thought for the 30-35 minutes that he was on the park, for his first time playing properly in midfield since Brendan Rodgers came in, I thought he did a really, really good job. I thought he was efficient in everything that he did. And a very different sort of player to Hatate. Hatate likes going forward and making things happen, whereas Iwata will stay back and work on the defensive side, give Cal McGregor that licence to roam forward. I was quietly impressed with Iwata. There was a point especially where he just lobs it. He just one touch lobs it over the Livingston man. Livingston's player completely takes him down, wins a free kick, takes away all the pressure from Celtic as Livingston looked as if they were going to attack. Yeah, it was a good cameo from Iwata and certainly something that he can work on in the near future.
I thought Iwata shone brighter than Hatate today. I thought Hatate's short passing game was diabolical at times, to be honest. I've got to be honest, and maybe I just expect more from Hatate, but
yeah,
I
think we all do. That's the thing.
Yeah, there were times when him and Daizen Maeda were trying the short stuff and were putting each other in danger because the Livingston player was in close proximity, and what seemed like a straightforward pass became a 50-50. And I think you need to be better than that and take care of the football a lot better than that. And Hatate's guilty of it more than most. Maeda can follow him in the guilty stakes at certain times. So I thought I was really impressed with Iwata when he came on, because you see, I think he took any kind of sting or any kind of thoughts, snuffed out any kind of chance of a Livingston comeback in that game today. So, but again, I go back to beside McGregor and O'Reilly, I think Iwata just sort of said, "Yep, I'm going to make a wee impact here," and he did. He took the sting out of Livingston coming forward and coming at you in the latter stages, and at no point did I feel that Livingston were going to score and get themselves back in. Well, I thought the only way they were going to score was through Celtic negligence and complacency.
That was the closest they got with Nubly's chance, and that was basically gifting an opportunity, gifting a really I'm going to be doing my stats report tomorrow. I'm sure that chance will be quite high with regard to XG because he just passes it straight to Nubly.
Yeah.
Nubly, I think, doesn't think he has as much time as he does. Takes it sort of first time and puts it over the bar. Thank goodness his efficiency definitely wasn't there on that occasion. Any of those buyers or those suitors that David Martindale is talking about, it seems every week about Joel Newbley. I hope they weren't watching because that was a bit of a sitter. If they're wanting to sell him, then I hope they weren't watching his highlights there because it was a real big chance to make a game of it, and he didn't take it.
Yeah, it was a big chance to make a game of it. Thankfully, he didn't take it, and Scott Bain got out of jail. But again, that was, apart from the Joe Hart save in the first half, that was the only threat that Livingston carried all afternoon, wasn't it? Because as I say, I didn't think Celtic were going to lose a goal. So it was just a question of could they make their territorial and kind of domination count. When they advanced up the park, and they did. I mean, the 48th minute goal from Matt O'Reilly, it just kills it as a contest. I turned around to whoever I was sitting beside and I said, that's game, set and match, because I didn't see Livingston coming back into it. And I think they'll feel that it was a spurned opportunity with Celtic going down to 10 men and the goalkeeper going off, but they just didn't make didn't make use of that man advantage at all. But it was to Celtic's credit that they didn't. And again, I thought Celtic were quite poised and calm in possession and never panicked, and took the goalkeeper going off blow on the chin and just rolled the sleeves up and said, right, okay, we're still a good football team. We've lost our goalkeeper. We've got one in. We've got a goalkeeper in. Forrest is off. Okay, we'll just restructure it. And they reverted to the game that they were playing prior to Joe Hart getting sent off anyway.
Yeah, I like that. And in some aspects, I thought that some of their best periods of the game were with 10 men on the park, funnily enough, which was absolutely crazy. They were playing that. There wasn't any problem because it was a goalkeeper. It meant that Kyogo was sort of playing this weird role where he was playing as a striker but also as a right winger at the same time. He had to probably do double the movement to get into that position, but he was still going out wide to collect the ball when the ball was going in that situation. But the midfield, there was nothing wrong with the midfield whatsoever. Cal McGregor instantly understood the assignment that was ahead of him. He was absolutely fuming with the referee. I thought McGregor had been booked, with the scales incident. I thought it was McGregor that had been booked because John Beaton seemed to put the yellow card in his direction, but it turns out to be like maybe a mistaken identity, or either that he was telling his captain that he was booked. You get me? It's like rather than Cal McGregor himself. I know as captains have that wee bit more leniency to talk to the referees and remonstrate with them on decisions. They've got that power due to the armband. But McGregor instantly knew what he was up against, and he was like, I need to go up a couple of gears here. And I think his timing was impeccable, and it was so obvious. I was watching it from the TV. I know you were at the game. I don't know if you noticed it. The levels went up for McGregor. He instantly knew he had to take charge of this game, and he certainly did.
Yeah, you could see it. I mean, the ground that all the midfielders covered when they went down to 10 men, they just knew. They took it upon themselves. That's what good players do. And then listen to the manager as well and just say, look, up to you guys. You take this by the scruff of the neck. And that's what they did. And it was no surprise that Celtic had a lot of good passages of play when they went down to 10 men, because they just did what comes natural to them. They're all gifted footballers. And, when they went to 10, you sort of thought, this could be really, really fraught. Nah, it's one of the better and more enjoyable visits to the Tony Macaroni that Celtic have enjoyed in recent years, because this was a team who were well drilled, knew exactly what they were doing, even when they went to 10, didn't panic, and just strutted their stuff. McGregor just taking control as he does, and O'Reilly just being O'Reilly, and Iwata coming on, playing his part, a really impressive cameo that he had when Hatate went off. I thought Hatate was, of the midfielders, he deserved to come off and gets another hour on the park. So I just want him to tighten up his distribution, because as I said in the aftermatch or the instant reaction in Rotterdam, he can be an erratic footballer at times, really erratic, and you saw some of that erratic distribution today, but you didn't see it from McGregor or Matt O'Reilly, because they protected the football. They knew how important it was to protect the football against a Livingston team who usually would get a lot closer to them and a lot nearer them. You mentioned the Ryan Christie game where he was sent off and Lyndon Dykes terrorised the defence. Livingston had a great opportunity today and they couldn't lay a glove on Celtic, and that's largely because all of Celtic's big players stepped up to the plate. Greg Taylor as well, Alistair Johnston, Scales and Lager-Bielka were pretty solid, and your midfield were excellent. Kyogo's not scored, but he still made a valid contribution, and Daizen Maeda just Daizen Maeda's became a modern studies essay for that performance today. Daizen Maeda discuss 15 marks. It's like, a flow diagram. What do you say about Daizen Maeda? He was just everywhere and did everything. As you say, good, bad, and different, ugly, call it what you want. And then caps it off with a superb strike at the end. And I think Celtic were 3-0 worthy winners. I have to say, I was pretty disappointed in Livingston. But I think I was only as disappointed as how poor they were. As they were only allowed to be as good as Celtic let them, and Celtic didn't give them any kind of hope in the game at all. And it's as relatively comfortable a visit to the Tony Macaroni as you're ever going to get with Celtic.
Yeah, a very mature performance, I would say, from Brendan Rodgers. Young Celtic side. I know a lot of it was still Ange Postecoglou's signings. Not a lot of the players that were there the first time are still at Celtic. They're still. I think we're still all giving them a bit of leeway with regard to the final result. The St Johnstone result was obviously disappointing, but there's a lot more positives than negatives at this point. Look at that league table. It's a great point haul already. If you were to have said, and they dropped points in maybe the game that they shouldn't have, but at least it wasn't at a Pittodrie or an Ibrox or even today. That can be accounted for. That can be sort of looked past because the shooting boots weren't on. Celtic weren't at the races that day, but they were, and they have been when it's counted in the league, and that's why they are where they are at the moment. We don't know what's going to happen between Motherwell and Rangers tomorrow, but Celtic have did their job for the weekend, and as you say, it makes or breaks your weekend, and we're happy because of it.
That pendulum of pressure swings back to Rangers now. Motherwell are playing as well as they've played in the start of a season. So why wouldn't they fancy their chances of going to Glasgow and picking something up? They'll never have a better chance because I don't think Rangers are firing on all cylinders. So if you're Motherwell, you're thinking, let's see if Rangers are vulnerable and have a go, at least. But again, that's not in Celtic's hands. What Celtic could control today was their own performance, and it was mature. It was cold, it was calculated, it was clinical, it was professional. A bit like the manager, as I say, the performance is a mirror image of Brendan Rodgers' second stint at the helm. And every time you have these opportunities to go 7 ahead, however X amount of points ahead, you have to take them. And that was a wee emphatic statement today. I thought.
Agreed.
That,
yeah.
That's a statement win today in terms of the fact that it's a ground where, teams can struggle. Not just Celtic, but lots of teams. And Celtic have swatted that challenge aside with 10 men for the last part of an hour of the game. And everybody was thinking, they're in a contest now, and people were predicting before it, it's the game after a European game. Celtic, it's right for Celtic to drop points. Why did they think that? What gave them any kind of inclination that Celtic would drop points today? I really don't know, but because they're not paying attention and they're not listening and they're certainly not watching. And Celtic lost to a decent side in midweek. Good side, but I still think they can match them at home in the last game of the group. And here's hoping that there's everything to play for when that swings around. But I certainly think domestically Celtic have got the beating of everybody. And the manager knows that because he trusts those players. And with the exception of James Forrest, he trusted 10 of those 11 players from the other night to do a job. in Livingston, and they did pass that test with flying colours, and he even called upon Tomoki Iwata as well, who came in from the cold and, didn't do himself, did himself a lot of favours by that wee cameo, just a wee kind of nod to Brendan Rodgers. I'm still around, I'm
Still
an
here,
option.
yeah.
I'm an option too, if you need me, boss. And that's what I like, because you can keep those. Not saying he's keeping them happy, but they're not in the huff. They're not coming on and not contributing. So he came
And
on
what I would
with
say,
half an hour to go, to knowing that there's still time for Livingston to get back in the game, but they were given no comfort or joy at all, and no kind of chance. He was right on it, and I was glad about that. That pleased me greatly.
yeah, me too. It's trust as well. Just going back quickly to Tomoki Iwata just before we finish off, because I do realise that we've been live for 50 minutes talking about this game. Always a lot easier 50 minutes when you're talking about a victory than a defeat or a draw. But then again, those ones you might have more to talk about in the negative sense. Always good to stay on for a bit longer, especially when it's positive vibes. Yeah, Iwata, I think one of the big words I would use, it isn't a big word in terms of characters, but trust is definitely one of them. Brendan Rodgers trusted Tomoki Iwata to go on and make a difference at 10 men. Go on, Hatate was coming off the pitch, arguably one of your biggest creative sparks alongside Matt O'Reilly and Kyogo as well. I would say up front, it's a good creative force. But to bring on Tomoki Iwata, who is a more defensively minded player, to basically shore up the midfield, act as an extra defender, you would say as well, be playing in that number 6 role. As a number 6, you are basically an auxiliary centre back. You're just playing a little bit further forward, a bit more like a sweeper in the olden days, like a sweeper sort of defender. You know what I mean with those players. That was their job, to just sweep it away. Iwata had that job today, and I thought he passed with flying colours. But I just want to talk about just quickly. Brendan Rodgers clearly trusted them in that environment. He could have easily brought on Paulo Bernardo. He could have brought on Odin Holm, who, we were a bit disappointed not to get brought on for any minutes, but that was just the way the game went. There'll definitely be more chances for a young 20-year-old, but to bring on a 26-year-old and Tomoki Iwata, to trust him in that atmosphere when he's not had a lot of game time before, I think that says a lot about where he is in the team at the moment. I think it's answered a couple of questions as well. He's still very much there, and he's fighting for that spot.
Yeah, and I think the manager said, we've got a clean sheet, go and help preserve it. That would have been his instructions. And boy, did he help preserve it, because Livingston never had a chance, did they? They got no encouragement. Maybe if an Odin Thiago Holm or a David Turnbull comes on for Hatate, then Livingston think, all right, that's one of their better players off the park. Let's have a wee rip at it here. He's taken Hatate, who's renowned for being a creative type, and putting on Tomoki Iwata to preserve what they've got and help enhance it if they can, but mainly to preserve. We're 2-0 here. Tomoki, see this out. Again, another intelligent move by Rodgers. Game management. I'm entrusting you to manage this game alongside the other two in the midfield, and run down the clock, run down the next half an hour by doing what you do best, and that's just standing there and not giving any encouragement at all to your opponent, and just mopping it up and being there and being that extra security blanket. And I was really pleased with Tomoki Iwata, and I was really pleased that Brendan gave him that wee out. And again, it's that wee nod, isn't it? I'm still here, Gaffer, and I'll do you a turn when you turn to me. I can be relied upon. I can be trusted. And he made a mockery of the surface as well, didn't he? He was fine. There was no issue there with him either.
Consummate professionals. They'll play in whatever pitch is available to them.
A good footballer, Ryan. And footballers. It's the old square peg round holes, isn't it? When people talk about playing players out of position, guys have a natural position, or players have a natural position for a reason, and he's putting them on there for a reason. Shore it up, guide us over the line. Not turn to Tumbo or Thiago Holm or Bernardo. He's turned to this guy and say, look, I need a specialist job done here. You're up to it. I'm trusting you to go in there and do it. And Tomoki Iwata didn't bat an eyelid, did he? He's very confident, very measured, very calm in what he did. And again, mirror image of probably the instructions you got from the manager prior to coming on. See this out. Just, do me a turn.
He did that.
No problem. No problem. He's not asking him to do anything that's alien to his nature. Not putting a square peg in a round hole, putting him in a position that he's never played before. When they put him to right back and all that, he's never a right back. He's a midfielder. He's a holding anchor midfielder, isn't he? And you say an old-fashioned sweeper type, whatever you want to call it, but that's his role. And again, Ryan, options. You get plenty of options when you looked at that bench today, and you could have affected that game in any number of ways. You could have sent a more attacking midfielder on and said, "Look, let's make it 3-4 now." But no, he was quite content because the team were playing well, and he just added him in there to solidify everything. Don't take any unnecessary risk with any of your players, and they still managed to win 3-0 at a canter, by the way, an absolute canter. In a venue where normally you would expect a lot harder to have to dig deep and dig, and a real battle, but they never got that today. Well, whatever battle Livingston put up, Celtic steamrolled it. Just their football
passed with flying colours.
Their football was just good enough to see them off, without any kind of threat.
Yeah, absolutely. Just before we finish off, I just want to read out the league table. Celtic are currently first in the league with 16 points. St Mirren are second with 14 points after their 2-0 win today. A really incredible start to the season for another Northern Irish manager. And Stephen Robinson, the top two managers are both from roughly about the same area, and Brendan Rodgers and Stephen Robinson. Two really, really good performances thus far this season for both sides. So it'll be third place v fourth place tomorrow in Motherwell v Rangers. It's a big game at the top of the table. It's shaping up to be a very, very interesting league table as it stands. But the most important thing in the clincher is that Celtic are top after 6 games, and there's a bit of a gap there as well. So that's absolutely ideal. Fingers crossed that they can extend on that gap in the coming weeks. We've been going for 56, 57 minutes now. I think it's flown by, but it's always easy when you're talking about Celtic, and even better when it's a Celtic win.
Result dependent, Ryan. I always say it every Friday. It is result dependent. It shapes your mood, doesn't it, for the weekend? It just shapes up. It shapes a lot because your mood and your fortunes are intrinsically linked to the performance of your football team. And days like today, which you'll probably not look back when you're doing your highlights package of the season and think much of it, but I thought today was it was a statement win. It was we can come to these places and play like that have that measure of control and calmness about you. I was really impressed with Celtic today, especially coming off the back of playing with 9 men in a European tie for long periods of that game, and playing for 10 men with long periods today. So you have to big up the manager and the players today. It's a professional and clinical job, well done. The execution of the perfect game plan, Joe Hart's red card aside. So reasons to be cheerful, 1, 2, 3, as a famous man once sang. I think it was Ian Dury and the Blockheads, wasn't it? So yeah,
you've used that one before as well.
I wrote it down, but it just pleased me today. Everything about Celtic pleased me today, and puts a big smile on my face when that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll let you get home and get back down the road. Thank you for all your coverage, both before, during, and after the game, Tony. We couldn't do it without you. And thank you to everybody in the comment section. We really do appreciate all the comments. They definitely help us, especially with other results going on while we're still recording. It's good that people are keeping us up to date. I think it's 1-0 to St Mirren rather. So somebody said it was 2-0, but there might have been a VAR check and it was given off. But either way, it looks as if St Mirren are getting a win against Hart. So that'll mean they go second in the league. Incredible start to the season for them. We really do appreciate the comments. You're keeping us up to date with things that are happening when we're away from our phones and away from screens. So we do appreciate that help and that helping hand. So yeah, thank you very much for that. Just before we finish off, Please subscribe to the Celtic Way website and the Celtic Way YouTube in 2 clicks. If you visit www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe, you'll get instant analysis from Tony and I. You'll have Q&As from Sky and from Celtic TV, etc., on everything that the manager has said and the players have said after the game. If you're interested, it's £4 for 4 months. And if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, that is completely free if you want to do that. It will really help us create a bigger community in the comments section. And if you do that, then you'll get notifications as to when we go live with these sorts of videos, with our live streams in the morning, for our morning briefings, for our pre-recorded videos, and our special interviews that we have throughout the season. So if you're interested, please press the subscribe button and get involved. Tony, thank you very much for joining me both before and after the game, and for doing your instant analysis. I really do appreciate it.
Our pleasure, and thanks to everybody who's tuned in. I don't know the numbers. I can't see it. It's obscured from my sight on the phone. But yeah, we all listen. We see this all the time. We don't pay lip service to you. We can't do it without subscribers and commenters coming in and sharing their thoughts as well. And you might not think it, but there's a genuine love and appreciation for what we do, and we love and appreciate the fact that you guys tend to love it and appreciate it as well. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship. We're the fortunate ones that we get to do this for a living, but we never ever lose sight of that. We try and bring you the best coverage and the best analysis and the best interviews and the best features that we can, and the best videos as well. That's the free stuff that you get. But if you subscribe, then obviously that helps us grow the channel, and we've grown it from nothing in 2 years to get a kind of an audience that a loyal audience, which is exciting to us, and an ever increasing fan base since you've come along, Ryan. And you know, it's something that we're very, very proud of, and we want to just keep growing, guys, and we can only do it with your help. And and thank you to you, Ryan, for your contribution. Stellar as always, my friend. It's always good when you have a match like today to reflect on. Makes your life and job easier, doesn't it? When you're smiling.
It's not a job. It's not a job when you're. It's not a job when you're talking about
yeah.
It is a way of life. You know, it's the way that the only way that we know, basically. So therefore, it's not news. It's just an accepted fact when this happens. But yeah, we really do appreciate everybody's contributions. But we've went well over an hour now. I know you'll be itching to get back down the road. But we really do appreciate everybody commenting. We'll be back on Monday. Yeah, Monday morning to be on the morning briefing. We'll discuss the game, maybe the fallout of the game in a bit more detail, and we'll look ahead to some of the fixtures in the next couple of weeks. But until then, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Celtic are top of the league. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your day.